The Portland Retro Gaming Expo is one of the most anticipated shows of the West Coast for video games. I first experienced this convention back in 2015, and every year since I've tried to come back. Hey guys, Russ Lyman here, and I'm at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. Let's check it out.
Russ, what you doing? Russ, what you doing? Russ, what you doing? Let's find out.
When visiting Portland, I always head out to my buddy's house out there, the Nintendo adapter, and stay with him. And oftentimes our mutual friend George will come up from New Mexico and hang out as well. And this year he was joined by his girlfriend Cindy and his brother Angel, who are on the channel The S Squad. They're actually one of the nominees of YouTuber of the Month way back in February. I had a great time just waiting in line with these guys.
Ready for the expo. Aw, yeah.
We did end up picking up some media badges. I got the camera. We're in. And that made us feel special. Okay, so it's been a full year for me to release this video, but cut me some slack. Finally, the line started moving and we got in. I love the layout of the convention center and even the lighting. Everything feels open and flows very well. I browsed the arcade area a bit before checking out some of the vendor booths. The Nintendo doctor was selling his repo carts right up front for the best foot traffic. The cosplay that is brought to this convention is fantastic. There's a Jawa, watch out, it's behind you. We ran into quite a few that were doing some Star Wars cosplay, and they look great. Each year the show has a theme that they stick to, and this year was Atari. All those awesome old school games, box art, everything reflected that. And Atari Age has an impressive setup at the show, with some great homebrew games that you can check out. That's one of the things I always love about this show, is getting the new old games at the show. There is always a few vendors that showcase some new games that they've been working on. I try to pick up a few every time I'm out here to support the community. One of the games that I picked up is Assimilate on the NES. This is a game about alien abduction. It's a weird shooter alien abduction style game and definitely one of a kind. I had a fun time checking it out, and you can choose different things that you do to the humans and that will get you more points. Definitely a neat concept. I also chatted with someone that made one of the first homebrew games that used the Nintendo Power Pad, at least that I know of. The game is called Tailgate, and it's pretty much like cornhole. You have to make your own beanbags to toss to the Power Pad, but I give it a 10 out of 10 for creativity and ambition. And I just need to find someone to play with me. I also ran into Tim from Retro Entertainment. I first met his crew back in 2015 when I picked up the game Haunted Halloween 85. It was definitely a game that caught my attention and I fell in love with. I was one of the first YouTubers that actually did a review on that game. Haunted Halloween 85. Let's check it out. Well, this year they were back and had an awesome setup, and I picked up Haunted Halloween 86, the awesome sequel, and this sweet shirt. Me and Tim kept a pretty close friendship throughout the years and actually snagged this cool Polaroid of us together at the expo. It was time to take a break from walking around the convention and see what the panels had to offer. I hopped into the Gaming Historians panel, and he was doing a video game themed game of Jeopardy. It was pretty fun to watch. John Riggs was joined by a few friends, and he was diagnosing broken game carts. Some audience members brought in games that were not working, and they tried to see if they could fix them on the spot. Mark Arison was there, one who did the box art for such games as Strider on NES, Mega Man 2, and the Tengen Tetris. I went into his panel and it was pretty amazing to watch. He was telling stories about him getting people off the street to help pose for sketching for a cover like Guerrilla War. It was pretty awesome to see how they had to do it opposed to now with everything being digital. I even ran into the Bad Graphic Gamers, East Coast buddies of mine that I ran into at the Too Many Games Expo. And they even remembered me from when I was on their show.
Hold on, wait.
Oh, Russ. Oh, Russ.
Oh, Russ, slow.
One thing that was new to this year was the addition of a video game museum that was on display. Since this year's theme was based around Atari, they had one of the most impressive display of games I ever seen in real life. Boxed Atari games kept in these clear acrylic cases, and I have never seen more than half of them. Along with that, they had on display some never-released NES games and prototype carts. But the most amazing thing of all was the Super Nintendo PlayStation system. Yes, you heard that correctly. Before PlayStation went out on their own, they tried to team up with Nintendo, and this was the console. It was never released to the public, and Dan Dybloyd discovered the Nintendo PlayStation prototype, and his dad worked for a company called Adavana, and they went into bankruptcy. His dad decided to purchase at auction some of their items, and this was sitting in the box. Terry was at the show answering questions for you, and you could even play this system. They had a copy of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the Super Famicom plugged in. It was a pretty sweet sight to see at first hand, plus a part of gaming history. Back to the game room floor for some more purchases. Day 2 ready to go.
Boxes. Roberts. Cardboard.
And I even had to swing by their lounge setup, complete with shag carpet and an old entertainment system with one of those CRT TVs that looked like a piece of furniture. I ended up picking up this book called Playing with Power, Nintendo NES Classics. I like how the dust sleeve is. And it's a full-color book with a lot of the Nintendo games with some tips and tricks in it and backstory. It was definitely a fun read to read on the plane ride home. And I also picked up this t-shirt. Alright, Portland, looking good. It's definitely a great time, and I always enjoy coming out to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo and just hanging out with my friends out there. A lot of people I never get to see because they're on the West Coast. And I'm happy to say I'll be attending this year's Portland Retro Gaming Expo. I already got my plane ticket purchased, so hopefully I'll see some of you guys there.
I'm trying to find out information about this because I know nothing. But one of the things that people are thinking about was maybe it was a prototype that was pitched to Nintendo for the toys.
Right, and maybe they...
Shot Russ?
Let me know in the comments down below if you're attending PRGE. And if you like these game convention videos, be sure to check out my coverage of Retro World Expo. I went to that convention 2 weeks ago and had a blast. Big shout out goes to my buddy, the Nintendo Doctor, for always inviting me and letting me stay at his house. George from the S-Squad, I always have fun hanging out with you and chatting. If you guys aren't subscribed already, consider doing so. I put out weekly videos about video game related stuff. And as always, gamers, I'm Russ Lyman, and I'll see you next video. And I want to give a super shout out to all my Patreon supporters: Joey Ellis, George Sandoval, Joe Sheevy, David Apuzzo, Maynard, Dr. Pest, Nintendo, Brian Coolpepper, and all my other supporters on Patreon. Your constant support is greatly appreciated. Link below if you want to join the squad.